And we're back for the third and final segment of this Avengers spoiler review. This is Andrew's Awesome Carcast. As always, I am Andrew Francis, and let's get rolling. So yeah, where I left off, which was honestly about a week ago now, because I've had a lot of shit happen in my life that has just prevented me from recording this. All good, actually. May talk about that at the end, but for now, let's just get through Endgame. So yeah, the last thing I want to talk about is, of course, Iron Man's story. Iron Man, who, in my opinion, as I'm sure most people's, is the hero of this story. You know, you can make the argument for Cap, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's Iron Man. You know, he started this whole universe with Iron Man 1, which was amazing. So it's only fitting that he be the hero to end it. Or at least end this saga, the Infinity Saga. So, when we first see Iron Man, he's trapped, or not trapped, he's stranded in the middle of outer space with Nebula aboard, I forget what they call the ship. I know it was originally called the Milano, but then they got a new one. I think they renamed it, but I can't remember what they did, or even if they did, it might just be the Milano. But either way, Tony Stark and Nebula are stranded on this ship, this following the events of Infinity War, where they were both on Titan when Thanos took the Time Stone from Doctor Strange, and they were the only two who survived the snap. So we see them, we have this great moment of them playing paper football with each other. I mean, they're not using paper, they've used fashioned a little metal or tin, whatever, football. And you know, it's just them trying to pass the time. We get this little heartwarming moment with Tony Stark and Nebula, where, like, you know, Nebula's not used to having fun or really being shown too much kindness, so, you know, it's interesting to see her warm up to Tony a little bit. And then Tony goes into a narration monologue, the one we've seen in the trailer the one you saw in the trailer a million times. You know, it's like, really hoping to pull off, I know I told you no more surprises, Pepper really is hoping to pull off one more, you know, where he's talking into the Iron Man helmet recording. And as we see over this monologue, we see, you know, Tony and Nebula fixing the ship a little bit, you know, which is how they were able to take off, and they got as far as they could go, but they just ran out of fuel and power. The ship was heavily damaged. Oh, excuse me. And then we see Tony and Nebula, and then I think this goes hand in hand with the paper football scene, where we see, like, you know, obviously they're stranded, so they have to ration all food and water. And Tony is eating something out of like a rations bag, and he offers it to Nebula, and Nebula is just like, no, you take it, because obviously, like, you can see that he's struggling a bit more than she is. You know, she being mostly cybernetic now, anyways. Where I'm guessing she doesn't need much food or any. I'm not really sure. No, yeah, she does need food. I remember, yeah, we had that scene in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 with the whole "it's not ripe yet" thing. Yeah. But anyways, she lets Tony in act of kindness lets Tony have it. And yeah, Tony has essentially resigned himself to die at this point. I mean, like I said, he says in his speech he's been stranded in space for 22 days with no fuel, no power, out of food. And then also he mentions that the oxygen is going to run out in like 8 hours anyway, so he's fucked. I'm not sure if Nebula can breathe in space, but Tony is 100% fucked. And just like, we see Tony, and oh, this was great. Like, it took me a moment to notice this, but like, they actually did the thing where, like, they went in and they CGI'd Tony, and they made him look very malnourished, you know, very thin, very sickly looking. You know, because obviously you're stranded out in space for 22 days with no food or water. You know, your body's gonna dehydrate. You know, you're gonna get really thin and all that. And it looks great. And you see it better. So obviously he doesn't die. Duh. What happens is Captain Marvel, I don't know if, like, she picked up a distress signal from them, or if while she was on Earth, like, the remaining Avengers, like, told him, like, hey, Tony was on Titan, like, she was on her way there and she just happened to find them. I don't know. Either way, she finds them, and she brings the ship back to Earth, specifically back to Avengers headquarters. And I didn't realize this my first viewing, but after the second viewing, it clicked with me. This is the first time that Cap has seen Tony. I think I may have mentioned this when I was reviewing Captain America's storyline. But yeah, this is the first time Cap and Tony see each other. Because they didn't see each other at all in Infinity War. Again, man mentioned that earlier with Cap, fuck it. So, they see each other, like they're comparing notes like what happened on Earth. We didn't stop him. Cap's like, we didn't stop him either. And like, he did it. He snapped out half the all life just as he said he was going to. And so, you know, and this is where we get the moment I'm sure I talked about in Captain America, where, you know, he's like, Tony, like, did Thanos say anything that could lead us to help find him where he is? And Tony's just like, I'm fucking done. He's like, I gave it my all. We gave it our all. This guy beat the shit out of all of us and destroyed half the universe. Well, not destroyed, killed half all life in the universe. Like, I'm done. Like, he's lost faith. He's sort of reverting back to his old self in this moment. Like, the pre-Iron Man Tony. Like, selfish, jerk, kind of, you know, like, fuck you kind of thing. Whereas, you know, like, afterwards, when he becomes Iron Man, he definitely becomes much more selfless. But in this moment, like I said, he just spent 22 days stranded in space, was never sure, you know, if he was going to see Pepper or anyone else ever again, thought he was like hours away from death. And so understandably, you know, he's rattled. You know, he got his ass kicked, nearly died. You know, he's just out. He's like, I'm just gonna be thankful for the miracle that I'm alive and I'm back reunited with my fiance. I'm just walking away. You know, rips off the nanotech thing, gives it to Cap. He's like, I'm out, I'm done. So then, we don't see Tony for a little bit now, but in between, that's when Ant-Man comes, devise the Time Heist plan, yada yada yada. But so Ant-Man's like, I need help building this thing. Like, I can't do it on my own. So they go and see Tony, and they go out to this cabin in the woods, which was alluded to. I forget if it was Age of Ultron. Yeah, it was in Age of Ultron, I believe. Which it's a little bit of a throwback where at the end of Age of Ultron, when Tony is kind of like leaving the Avengers in Cap's hands. Tony's he's about to get into his car, and he says, you know, maybe I'll take Barton's route, you know, get a little cabin in the woods, shack up with Pepper, and he's actually done it. Like, he's out in the woods. So yeah, we see Black Widow, Captain America, and Ant-Man drive out to see Tony in the woods, and of course we see here Tony is now married to Pepper, and he has a daughter who was foreshadowed in Infinity War. The first time we see Tony in Infinity War, when he's walking through the park with Pepper, and he says, like, I had the weirdest dream last night. You know, it's one of the things where it comes to fruition. He's like, well, it's like we had a kid, and he says, like, we even named it after your crazy eccentric uncle, Morgan. And sure enough, he's married to Pepper, and they have a little girl. Her name is Morgan, and Morgan's adorable. And it's so we see Tony, and like, he's playing with his daughter, and like, his daughter is in this like makeshift little tent thing she has in the backyard, and she comes out and she's wearing an Iron Man helmet, but it's designed for Pepper. Like, Tony says, like, hey, why are you wearing? I made that for Mom. Like, I'm gonna surprise her with it. And, you know, this is what's going to be the rescue armor in the comics. Pepper Potts is given her own Iron Woman suit, and her hero name is Rescue. And it's the rescue helmet the daughter's playing with that she found in the garage. And so then jumping back, the other remaining Avengers come. They try and talk Tony into it, and Tony's just like, you know, I'm really sorry, but I'm good. You know, it's like, I told you before, I quit, and now I'm married. I have a daughter. It's like, this is my world. Like, I can't risk them. You know, it's like, anything else I'd be glad to help you with, but like a suicide mission or anything that puts them in danger, I can't risk it. And so like Cap and the gang kind of understand and accept it, and they leave Tony. And then Tony, but then, you know, Tony being Tony, like, he can't let it go. You know, so we see it cut to, the other thing that eggs him on is, so then we cut to late night, like it's after dinner, Tony's washing dishes, and, you know, he gets some water, like he sprays a little bit of water, and he's just, you know, drying it off a little bit, and he sees he's gotten water on a picture of him and Peter. He's in Spider-Man Homecoming. The way they justify, the way Peter lies to Aunt May about going out doing hero work is that he's won the Stark internship. That he's he's an intern for Tony Stark, and that's explains his you know, mysterious outings. So they took, you know, they made fake evidence of it. So it's a picture of him and Peter holding up a, you know, a framed certificate, like, oh, you know, Stark internship, yada yada yada. And so, you know, like, the music gets all emotional. You know, obviously this is plugging at pulling at Tony's heartstrings. And then so we cut and we see Tony at his work desk there in the cabin, and he's of course working on the time travel proposal that Ant-Man and Captain America told him about. And of course he figures it out. But we get this great little moment there where he figures it out and he falls back in his chair. He's like, oh shit. And then we hear a little mouse voice behind him go, oh shit. And we turn around and you see it's his daughter. And, you know, he's like, what are you doing up? And, you know, she's like, I couldn't sleep. And he doesn't want her to tell Pepper what he's been up to. So she blackmails him for popsicles. And so like they get a popsicle, they go back upstairs, like we see Tony tucking her into bed. And you get this great moment where Tony's walking out of the room and he says, I love you tons. And she says, I love you 3,000. And for anyone who doesn't know, the measurement of a ton, a metric ton, is 2,000 pounds. So by saying I love you a ton, she's upping it by saying I love you 3,000, because that's more than a ton. And like Tony's even thrown for a loop because he's like, wow. He's like, I love you 3,000. He's like, wow. Wow. He's like, you know, my daughter is so smart, and she just, you know, she just knocked me on my butt with that. It's freaking adorable too. Like the little girl who, I didn't catch the name of the little girl, the name of the actress who played the little girl, but she's adorable. Given enough time, I do hope we would see her again, you know, like in future movies where like she's grown up and, you know, like maybe she's Iron Man or she's somehow helping the Avengers or something. There probably is a story like that in the comics. I'm not too familiar. I didn't read much Iron Man comics growing up, to be honest. But yeah. So anyways, Tony goes back down, tells Pepper, is like, I figured it out. I figured out how to make this time travel thing work. But, you know, it's like, he essentially tells, like, I figured it out, but I don't want to do it because I know it'll risk you guys. Like, just tell me to stop. Because he knows he can't stop himself. Clearly, because he said he wouldn't do this thing to begin with, and he just fucking did it in a night. Which, by the way, amazing. Like, Tony Stark just figured out time travel in less than a 9-hour period. Like, how smart is this guy? But anyways, so yeah, so he's like, I figured out, but please stop me. It's like, if you don't stop me, I won't stop me. No one will stop me. And Pepper recognizes this in Tony, and she's like yeah. Because Tony says to her, he's like, I can just put this in a lockbox, drop it to the bottom lake, and we go to sleep. And Pepper says, yeah, we may go to sleep, but would you be able to rest? By which she means that, like, Tony, like, you know, this would constantly just nag on his conscience. And it's also a callback to almost every past Iron Man movie, where, like, it's been a theme that Tony has had trouble sleeping. Like, in the first Iron Man, obviously he's kidnapped, goes through this traumatic thing, and, you know, like, he can never rest, so he becomes Iron Man, like, to help, you know? And him and Pepper get into it. And then in the second one, that's the one where he's like, he's dying, like, from the palladium he's got in his chest, and so he just, you know, barrels into that destructive party lifestyle of, like, no sleep, up all night, partying, drinking, whatnot, yada, yada, yada. And then between 2 and 3, that's when Avengers 1 happens, that happens, he has after Avengers 1, because in Avengers 1, Tony's the one who goes up to the wormhole and the missile and, closes the portal so all that Chitauri can stop coming in. But then after that, in 3, he's got, kind of PTSD from that. He's having all these flashbacks. And there's at least one, possibly multiple scenes where he's in bed just having nightmares and he can't rest. So it's a constant theme throughout Iron Man's arc that he can never rest. And we'll touch up. I'll tell you how that comes. We'll all see how that comes in later. So yeah, so Pepper essentially gives him her blessing. Like, you got to do this. Like, I know you. You have to do this. Go do it. And so Tony shows up at the Avengers thing, and he like knows, like, let me guess, you guys turned him into a baby, right? Because he knows that, like, they've been fucking up and they've just been turning Scott Lang, the Ant-Man, like, into a baby. And so he tells me to figure it out. And here he gives Cap his shield back. And we have a good moment between them. Cap's like, I don't know, Tony, it's a little weird taking that from you. And Tony's like, hey, he made it for you. It's yours, because Howard Stark, Tony's father, is the one who originally made the shield, and he made it specifically for Captain America. And so it's also like, Tony and Cap, like, shaking hands and making up there, by saying, like, hey, he made it for you, this is for you. It's kind of like Tony's way of saying, like, I'm sorry I was a jerk, let's do this thing. So Tony helps them build the time machine. Time heist happens. So for his part of the heist, Tony goes back to New York 2014, which is the events of of Avengers 1, to help steal the Tesseract, the Scepter, and the Time Stone. So the Hulk goes to get the Time Stone, Captain America goes to get the Scepter, and Ant-Man and Iron Man are tasked with stealing the Tesseract. So they're tracking the Tesseract down the elevator, and their plan is that Ant-Man is going to, he shrinks down and he's going to jump inside Tony's chest piece and fuck with it a little bit, that, like, basically Tony has like a minor cardiac event. It won't kill him, but enough to distract him that President Tony can then go steal the case holding the Tesseract. And so President Tony has disguised himself as a shield like SWAT agent, operative, whatever. He's in, like, battle gear. Ant-Man goes inside past Tony's chest, pulls the thing, gives him a little heart attack. So the case isn't being watched. Tony picks it up, but then as Tony is leaving, he's hit by the Hulk, past Hulk. So yeah, so at the end of Avengers 1, you remember, like, they've beaten Loki, and, like, they're all standing around him, like, Hawkeye's got the bow drawn on him, and Iron Man's got the glove on him and shit. And Loki's like, I'll take that drink now. So then, like, what happened after that is then all the Avengers and some SHIELD operatives got in the elevator to escort Loki down, and Hulk was trying to get in the elevator, and they're like, whoa, 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 big guy, capacity. It's like, take the stairs. It's like Hulk angrily takes the stairs down. Get some good jokes there. Too many stairs. But when he gets to the bottom, he just punches the door open. And so when he hits the door open, that hits President Tony, who's carrying the Tesseract. And so it knocks him down. The case flies out of his hand and breaks open. And the cube lands right in front of Loki. And Loki just takes the cube and leaves. It makes his escape. And so now they've got the Scepter. They don't know it at the moment, but Hulk has the Time Stone, but they still need the Space Stone from the Tesseract. And so we're back on the streets of New York, and it's Cap, Tony, and Ant-Man, like, they're going over what happened. And that's when Tony has the idea of going back to the past to steal the Tesseract from SHIELD. Because, also in the moment where Tony was trying to steal it from SHIELD, like, we see Robert Redford makes a cameo, and he says a line. He's like, it's like, that cube is SHIELD property and has been since 1940, because that's when Cap went into the ice and they found the Tesseract, but not him. So that lets Tony remember, like, oh yeah, S.H.I.E.L.D. has had this thing the whole time. Like, we can just go get it in their past. But of course, the problem there is they only have enough Pym particles to, you know, to just get there. They wouldn't have to get back. So they pick a point in the past where they know where the cube is on a S.H.I.E.L.D. base, and they know Hank Pym will be there, so they steal Pym particles from him. And I went over this with Captain America. Cap goes to steal the Pym particles. Tony goes to get the Tesseract. When Tony goes to get the Tesseract, he steals it, and as he's leaving, he runs into his father. And this was really cool because I figured we'd get a past Michael Douglas, and we did, but we got a past John Slattery. John Slattery is the actor who played Tony's father, Howard. Driving safe, okay. And so so we get this moment of Tony walking out of the building, and he has this great talk with his father, because it's at a point where it's the 1970s, so like Tony's about to be born like any month or possibly day now. And so Howard Stark is asking him, like, what's, you know, hey, you got any kids? And he's like, yeah. He's like, well, what's it like being a father? You know, they have this moment, like, oh, he's not ready for it, yada yada yada. But you know, like, of course Tony's just alluding to all the stuff that, you know, when he went through when he was a kid with Howard, that he will go through. And hang on one second. Okay, we're good. And so the way they part ways is really nice, where he asks him like any last piece of advice, and Tony tells him, well, you know, one great piece of advice that my father, you know, you once gave me was no amount of money ever bought a single second of time. Which is kind of his way of saying, you know, like, work is important, but, you know, make time for the family. Because Tony remembers that that's something, you know, like, his father may have struggled with, and something he struggled with in his relationship with Pepper, and he's trying to be better with his daughter, Morgan. And so they part ways, having, they've got the cube, Cap stole the Pym particles, and so they make it back to Avengers Tower, where Tony, where they all have all six Infinity Stones now, and Tony constructs the nanotech glove to house the stones, because, you know, the regular Infinity Gauntlet's been broken. So he makes the gauntlet, Hulk does the snap, Nebula's betrayed them, or it's not Nebula, it's you know, it's past Nebula, who has switched places with future Nebula, and she has opened up the portal, and Thanos and his army come through. They blast Avengers Tower, goes to hell. It's final fight time. I've gone over this before. So Tony's part in the fight is pretty good too. Don't get me wrong, I still believe Captain America steals this show in terms of the fight, but Iron Man does a good job. His best moment in just the I just mean like the 3-on-1 portion of it, not the big huge army versus army thing. I'm just talking about the 3-on-1 where it's Cap, Thor, and Iron Man. Iron Man, you get a good combo move with Thor. You know, Thor's dual wielding Stormbreaker and Mjolnir, and Tony opens up like this kind of port in his back, and he's like, okay, hit me. And like Thor, you know, winds up and, you know, like, and shoots a huge bolt of lightning at Tony, and he just absorbs it and amplifies it with his, and mixes it with his own power and shoots that at Thanos, which Thanos just kind of brushed off, to be honest. Like, he really took that one like a champ. I thought they would at least like knock him back or something, but no, he kind of just brushed it off, deflected it with his sword, and then just kicked Tony, knocked him out, and knocked out Thor. Oh no, then he choked Thor, and this is the part where Cap picks up the hammer and whatnot. So yeah, so I went over it, Cap picks up the hammer, has his cool fight, blah blah blah. Cap staring, Iron Man is still down, Cap staring the army down on his own, but then, you know, on your left, and we get everyone back, you know, all the characters come back, and we go to the big brawl. And we see in the big brawl, we get some Tony teaming up with Pepper. This is where Pepper makes her entrance as rescue, because, you know, obviously Tony is going to protect his wife, so they're teaming up a bit. They have some cool moments. And then so then they figure out that, hey, we need to keep the stones away from Thanos. How do we do that? Oh, let's just send it back to the past, you know? So they remember that the time machine in the back of Scott's van, they're trying to get to the van. So then, as I mentioned this before too, I'm sure I did, where, you know, this is the Marvel version of the scene that happened in Justice League, where they're playing keep away with the mother box, only they're playing keep away with the gauntlet, and they do it way better just because it is. Even though, don't get me wrong, the scene in Justice League was great. But so yeah, so Thanos, of course, gets wise to this eventually, and he throws his sword at the van, blowing it up, destroying the time machine. Thanos eventually gets his hand on the gauntlet. You know, their last real shot of taking it from Captain Marvel, she gets punched just out of the fucking ballpark by Thanos, and Iron Man flies at him like he's got both hands on the gauntlet, like trying to rip it off, like, you know, feet in his chest trying to rip it off. But eventually Thanos just kind of rips him off and tosses him aside. And Thanos is like, you never had a chance, I am inevitable. And he snaps and nothing happens. Because as we see, like, but he turns his hand around and we see all the stones are gone. And this is brilliant. It's like, it's great. It's a great way to how they did this, because, you know, like, you're not just going to do the thing where you're trying to remove the gauntlet from Thanos' hand again. It's like, no, let's come up with another creative way to, you know, defeat him. So it stands to reason too that since Tony made this gauntlet out of his nanotech technology that his suit is also made out of, it makes perfect sense and is reasonable that his suit can interact with that gauntlet. So what he was actually doing when he was trying to remove it from Thanos' hand was, I'm sure if it would have come off, that would have been great too, but he knew that wasn't going to happen. He was just trying to buy enough time that he could transfer the stones from Thanos' gauntlet to his own hand. And so we see, like I said, Thanos turns his hand over, the stones are gone. We see Tony on his knees, like struggling, because the stones are being set in place and the power is surging through him. And we see, like, it's just, like, we see the energy charging up his side, and it's just like, he can't handle it. You can tell he can't handle it. But, like, he's powering his way through it. And, like, he's got, like, so we see, you know, he's got his own gauntlet with the stones in there. And like I said, Thanos had said, like, I am inevitable. Nothing. And we cut to Iron Man. Iron Man's like, and I am Iron Man. Boom. Tony snaps. Tony snaps, and he snaps away Thanos and his entire army. Like, we see them all fading one by one, and Thanos, like, is just looking around, like, defeated, like, in a bit of shock, and he stumbles, and then he eventually he accepts his fate, and he just sits down, like, looking off into the distance, and he gets dusted. Thanos is defeated. But then, and here comes one of the sadder parts of this movie, where obviously, like I said, we saw the energy creeping up Tony's side and charring his armor and, like, even his face. And then we cut back after Thanos has been dusted, and we see Tony just stumbling, blood coming from his eyes and nose and mouth, like, he's just charred to hell. He can't move that arm. Like, he used his right hand to snap. We can see he can't move that arm anymore. He's barely breathing. And Rhodey is War Machine is the first to reach him, and he's just like, you know, like, he's fighting back tears, but he can't. He's like, you did it, Tony. You know, we won. You did it. We won. And then Peter Parker, Spider-Man, swoops in, and he's like, Mr. Stark, you know, like, you're gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay, Mr. Stark. We won. I'm tearing up a little bit thinking about it. And so, you know, like, because here's Peter again. Like, this is the second time Peter's had to do this, essentially. Where, I mean, don't get me wrong, he's not the one dying this time, but still, like, Tony Stark is someone he's looked up to his whole life. Like, he appreciates everything he's done for him. He's this, like, granted, Spider-Man's only, in the movies anyway, Spider-Man's only interacted with him twice, in Civil War and in Homecoming. But, like, you get this kind of father-son dynamic between the two of them. And you know, it's like this is the second time Peter's had to, you know, leave Tony, like, you know, for what we believe is forever. The first time it was him dying, and now he has to watch Tony die. But you know, he's like Mr. Stark, you know, and like he's losing, like he's just a weaving mess. And then of course Pepper comes in, and this is where we get Tony's last dying words, where she's just like, honestly, I've seen this movie 3 times now. I can't 100% fully make out what he said. I believe he said, "Hey Pep," like when she steps in, he says, "Hey Pep," and Pepper puts her hand on his chest, and she says, "Friday, what are the vitals?" And he's, you know, like her nanotech armor can interact with his, and she's like, the AI Friday tells you like critical and failing, like she knows. So like she knows there's nothing really she can say, like it's unspoken that they love each other, you know, like she doesn't say that. So what she tells him is like, "Tony, we won, we're safe, you can rest now. Like you did it, you saved me, you saved your daughter, you can rest now." Choke it up a little bit. And so yeah, Tony dies right then and there. Tony, like, you know, she gave him the okay, like, you've done it, we're all safe, you can go in peace. And so Iron Man, Tony Stark, the man who started it all, started this Marvel universe, dies. And we get the funeral scene where it's not even like the funeral, like we don't see the casket or the body or anything like that. We see, it starts off, it's everyone like in the house, gathered in his house. And no, it might be just the immediate family. I can't remember exactly who's in the house, but anyways, we see, or no, god damn it, I can't remember the order of operations now. Which came first? Yeah, no, the house came first. I'm remembering. Okay, seen the movie 3 times. I can't get it all down perfectly. But so yeah, so they're in the house, and Tony made a recording on an Iron Man helmet before the time heist mission started, where, you know, he's basically saying like, hey, you know, like if this goes wrong and I die here, you know, I just want you to know this, that, and the other thing. I love you. You know, all this, all that, and the other thing. You know, very heart-wrenching message to Pepper and his daughter. And, you know, kind of like as he's giving the montage, like we see it cuts like we're in Wakanda. We see Black Panther, Shuri, and his mom like looking over Wakanda. It's getting itself back up started. You know, we get a shot of. I think we get a shot of New Asgard, like fixing itself. We get a bunch of stuff, and then so we get that over Tony's like heart-touching final goodbye speech, and then we cut to outside, and they've made like this little like wreath with the Tony's chest piece that he gave to Pepper in Iron Man 1. Like proof that Tony Stark has a heart, like that's sitting in the middle, and they float it out on the lake, and we see the shot of we get the slow pan and tracking shot of everyone who showed up. Like we see, like, and they section off, like we see Black Panther, Shuri, and the Queen. Then like we come over here and we see all the Guardians of the Galaxy. We come over here and you see Ant-Man, Hank Pym, the Wasp, and I forget her name, Michelle Pfeiffer's character. And then, you know, we get Captain Marvel. We get the kid from Iron Man 3, the kid with the potato gun. We see him, Peter Parker and Aunt May, you know, the Hulk, everybody. And it ends of course with Nick Fury up top of the steps there, you know, like looking down on everyone, because, you know, he is the one who brought the Avengers together. He's the architect of it all, so like he kind of gets this like overlooking shot kind of thing. And yeah, that is how Iron Man's story ends. Is he dead forever? I'm gonna say probably. Maybe if they do bring him back, it would just be for cameo stuff. I don't think he ever like becomes a main character or a hero ever again. Like, we'll get him for some flashbacks, I'm sure. But yeah, I think Robert Downey Jr. is pretty much done with that character. You know, like, he's done all he needs to. He was Iron Man for 10 years. Plus, there's the fact that he's 54 now. You know, how much longer is he going to be a superhero? Robert Downey Jr. is the oldest hero of the Avengers. Like I said, 54. I think he's done. I think that story's been told. Like I said, maybe some flashbacks. If they want to resurrect Tony from the dead, I don't really see the point in that. I mean, again, we'll see what stories they come up with, but yeah, I think that's a wrap on Tony Stark Iron Man. Will we get a new Iron Man? I'm sure we will. Be it his daughter, be it Pepper, be it, I know there's rumors that it'll be Shuri. I don't think it'll be Shuri, but could be. Who knows? I mean, I think we'll get another Iron Man, but I think that's a wrap on Tony Stark. So yeah, that's kind of my review of Endgame. It's either this or The Dark Knight, or the greatest comic book movies ever made. But granted, this, as I probably said before, like, this and The Dark Knight are two entirely different movies. Dark Knight's grounded in realism. This is like pure comic book joy and fun. This is an amazing movie. As of recording this, it is currently sitting at second highest grossing movie worldwide all time. It's, I want to say, 400 million behind Avatar. I think it can beat it. I really, really hope it does. I hope the momentum carries, because Avatar doesn't deserve to be -- 1. Fuck that movie. It should be this. Yeah, currently #2 worldwide, but #6 domestically. But again, I think it's only been out 2 weeks. I think this movie's gonna be in theaters, you know, for months. And yeah, I think and I really hope it does chase down that #1 spot and take it, because it deserves it. It's an absolutely great movie. It's 3 hours, but it flies by. You don't feel it at all. You know, granted, you know, there are some parts where it drags. Like the beginning is a little slow. You know, working up to the time, it takes us a little bit to get up to the time heist, which even then, like, the time heist has its like slow mo. It's like the part I just talked about with Iron Man and his dad, like Tony and his dad. Like, that scene went on a little long. Could have cut that a little bit, but really, like, there's no real complaints. This is all nitpicking. But yeah, it's just a great movie. Highly recommend it. Yeah, in terms of looking back, in terms of like real complaints, I guess my only real complaint would be the fact that they went and did time travel. Just because now we're stuck with, like, okay, so they went back and changed this in the past and did this, so how did that branch off? But they're like, oh no, they said if we went and put the stones back, it's not going to create a branch. Yeah, but you still kind of did this, and like Loki took off with the cube. So like, I fucking hate that. Like, they didn't do a good enough job clearly defining the rules of time travel for this universe. Whereas, like, they made fun of the movie, but in Back to the Future clearly defined those rules. You know, like, Doc told Marty, like, hey, if you do this, this is gonna be the result. You know, this. Cool. Like it or love it, like, they established the rules. Whereas here, you don't really nail it down. Like, don't get me wrong, again, perfectly fine. Like, this, like, in terms of complaints, this is my biggest complaint, but it's not a big complaint, you know? Because now, like, you just kind of sit, after you watch this movie, you just kind of sit there racking your brain, like, oh, I wonder what happened. Like, I wonder how they're going to fix this, how they're going to do this, yada, yada, yada. All this time travel shit. But, I mean, hey, they went with it, they did it, and it paid off. Like I said, I fully enjoy this movie. I recommend it to everybody. So yeah, I'm 3 viewings in on it, all IMAX. Will I see it again? Yup. Hopefully I can get another IMAX showing in. I'm not entirely sure though, because I know like as of recording this, today is May 9th, and I know John Wick is coming out soon, and that's going to be in IMAX. So I know that's going to take away some from some Avengers showings. So hopefully I can get another IMAX showing. And just because this movie was shot in IMAX, this is the way to see it. It's beautiful. It's just beautiful. But yeah, that is my Avengers Endgame review. So yeah, I think I'm gonna cut it there, because all 3 parts of this review might be longer than the movie itself. I'm not sure. I'll have to go home and add this part to the other ones and, you know, edit it all together, see how long it is. But I might have talked about this movie longer than it actually is, which is both stupid and impressive. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. So yeah, if you like this, give it a like, share it with your friends if you want to. Probably don't, because this is just me incoherently rambling stupidly. But yeah, but if you do like me, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at KingFranchise88. There'll be links in the description below. And yeah, once again, thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one. Peace.